All right, so what happens when someone doesn't make a payment on their property, on their mortgage? The bank is not going to let that fly. So what are the next steps, or what happens? How do you maybe acquire that property? I'm Aaron Impens, and today we're going to talk about foreclosures and auctions. All right, so let's discuss the foreclosure process a little bit today. In 2008, obviously there was a lot of foreclosures, or the start of many foreclosures. With that being said, there's not as many in the market today or these days, but it's inevitable and it's always part of it in some way, shape, or form. So, how does that look? What is the process? So, first off, there's a couple different types of way to secure a mortgage, okay? And in different states, they have different ways to do that. One is a deed of trust state or a trust deed state, those are the same thing. And the other is a mortgage state, okay? Each one of those has a different process of foreclosure. Today, just because I'm in Nebraska and predominantly most states are deed of trust states, that's what we're gonna talk about, okay? So what's a deed of trust? Obviously, that's the document that secures the interest in the property for the lender, whether it be a bank or a hard money lender, private money lender, anybody like that. That secures their interest in the property. So if you don't make your payment, what are the steps for that bank to get that property back? So let's say your payment's due on the 1st and it's considered late after the 5th. On the 6th, the bank, if they're on top of their game, is likely going to send you out a notice of default. Now, this usually won't happen on the 6th, but it should happen, in the month that you're in, maybe a week or so after you've missed your payment. They're going to send you out a notice of default. So, notice of default is a document. It gets filed with the county. Okay, it's public record, so anybody and everybody can see this. So, just realize that if you don't make your payment and a bank files a notice of default, your neighbor is going to be able to tell that you're not making your payments on your mortgage. Maybe something that bothers you, maybe not. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. I always pay my bills and I recommend that you do as well. But that's just for your knowledge. It's public record, okay? Notice of default gets sent out and you have 30 days to pay back whatever you're late, whether it be one payment, two payments, whatever it is. You have 30 days to pay that back. Okay, so let's say 30 days goes by, and for whatever reason you haven't paid your bill still. Well, the bank is not going to be happy about that, and they're going to force the sale of your house. Okay, so what they'll do next is file a notice of sale. Okay, and what is entailed in that is that has to be published in a local paper or something like that for 5 weeks. So they'll set a date to sell your property to recover the debt that you owe. That would be your late payment and any outstanding balance. And that date that gets set gets published for, again, the public to know. This is all public record. So first you got your notice of default, now you got your notice of sale. Everybody knows that you haven't been paying your bills. So the notice of sale, you set the date. That's 5 weeks, I believe, as 5 weeks goes by. And then they're gonna have the auction. The auction is usually held on the county courthouse steps, somewhere down there. Maybe it'll be held online, but more often than not, it's held right down at your county courthouse. Okay, and that's going to be the bank having an auction to sell the property that you currently own or live in that you haven't paid for, and they're going to sell it to the highest bidder, and they'll get their profit back or their debt back. So you go to that courthouse. Now you have up until the sale, up until the time of sale, to pay your bill back. Okay, if you're late, pay it back before the sale and you're fine. Now there's gonna be some fees incurred along the way, but get that paid back. So now let's talk about being the buyer of that property, because as investors, that's where we wanna be. We don't wanna be the one getting foreclosed on. We wanna be the one buying the foreclosures at the auction. So obviously, to keep track of that, it's public record, so you want to monitor what notice of defaults get sent out, what notice of sales, and when those sales are being had, and show up down at the courthouse. You need to be the highest bidder. Most auctions, they're going to make you pay for the house that day. Some auctions will say, hey, put 10% down at time of auction, the remaining amount within by the close of business or something along those lines. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to pay for the house that day. Now, here's some of the caveats to it: is you're buying this piece of property completely as is. Okay, if the person that hasn't paid their bill still lives in the property, guess what? You're buying it with them in the property, and it then becomes your responsibility to get them out, which can be another bit of a process, obviously. One thing that you want to make sure you're doing is you're paying attention to and doing your due diligence and finding out what lien is being foreclosed on. You want to be buying the first position lien. If you're buying the second position lien, you need to be aware of the first position lien, because the second position lien, you'll buy the house, but you will then be responsible for the first position lien still. Maybe I'm getting off in the weeds here a little bit, but my whole point is to do your due diligence, okay? Know what liens are on the property. Federal tax liens don't get taken off if you buy the first lien, so you'll be responsible for that. Utility liens as well also stay with the property, so know what you're buying, okay? Make sure that the legal descriptions match. You want to do your due diligence. This isn't a standard transaction where everybody's watching out for everybody to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. You need to be the one making sure you do that for yourself. Now, with that being said, you can find some decent deals down at the foreclosure auction at the courthouse. It can be pretty competitive too, so make sure that, again, you're doing your due diligence. Don't get caught up in the emotion of the auction. Again, this is a business, okay? This is a business. Don't fall in love with the property that they're selling. Make sure you know your numbers and your criteria that you're buying off of, and stick to it. If it gets to your max offer, you're done. If it goes for more, just know they're paying too much, and that's fine. You move on to the next. So that's just a little bit about the foreclosure process and a little bit about the auctions, and maybe a tip to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. You can find some good deals there, but make sure you're doing your due diligence. Hope that helps. If there's anything else that maybe you want to know about the foreclosure process or about those auctions, make sure and leave them in the comments and ask me some questions. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate you watching.